After my husband, Michael, left for his business trip, things took an unexpected and terrifying turn. My in-laws barged into the house and said, "Great, now get out. We don't need you here." My sister-in-law, Jessica, grabbed me and started kicking me while I was pregnant. "Come on, you fat cow, get out. We need the house," I cried, trying to dial Michael, but my father-in-law snatched my phone. My mother-in-law added, "Some pregnant women just don't know when to leave." That's when I lost consciousness. When I woke up in the hospital, I had no idea how I got there. The doctor told me, "Someone found you on the road." The realization hit me like a thunderclap. My in-laws had attacked me and left me unconscious in the street. I needed to call Michael, but when I did, his response was shocking. He didn't believe me. "Are you sure?" Pregnancy can make people dizzy, Elena. His disbelief shattered something inside me. "If you don't come home, then don't bother showing up at all," I told him, my voice trembling with anger and pain. I couldn't believe that the man I had married was questioning my account of what happened. Let me start from the beginning. Michael and I had been married for 3 years. I was 6 months pregnant with our first child when this nightmare began. We lived in a beautiful house that Michael had inherited from his grandmother. It was a place his family had always coveted. Michael's parents, Robert and Linda, and his sister Jessica, had never been warm to me, but I thought it was just typical in-law dynamics. How wrong I was. Michael worked as a regional sales manager, traveling frequently for business. He would often be away for 3 to 5 days, and I had grown accustomed to being alone in our home. It was a quiet time to prepare for the baby and work on the nursery. That Monday morning in July, Michael kissed me goodbye, promising to call every evening during his week-long trip to Chicago. I waved from our front porch, my hand resting on my growing belly, completely unaware that this would be the last normal moment I'd have for a long time. Monday and Tuesday went by peacefully. Michael called as promised, and we talked about baby names and the nursery. I spent my time organizing baby clothes and reading pregnancy books, feeling content and excited. On Tuesday evening, Michael mentioned that his meetings were going well and he might come home a day early. I was thrilled at the prospect and fell asleep that night with a smile on my face, eager to see him the next day. Wednesday afternoon changed everything. I was in the kitchen making myself a late lunch when I heard the front door open. I thought Michael might have surprised me by coming home early, but the voices I heard were definitely not his. My heart sank as I recognized the familiar tones of Robert, Linda, and Jessica. They had never visited unannounced, and something about their voices immediately put me on edge. "Elena," Linda called out from the living room. "Come here, we need to talk." I dried my hands on a towel and walked toward the living room, my pregnancy making me move more slowly than usual. The scene that greeted me was surreal. All 3 of them were standing in my living room like they owned the place, with cold, calculating expressions I had never seen before. "What's going on?" I asked, my voice betraying the growing knot of anxiety in my stomach. Robert stepped forward with a puffed chest, trying to assert authority in a way that felt forced. "Great. Now get out. We don't need you here." I stared at him, certain I had misheard. "Excuse me? What did you just say?" Linda crossed her arms and smirked. "You heard him correctly, dear. It's time for you to leave. This house belongs to the family, and we've decided it's better if you're not in it anymore." "This is my home," I said, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. "Michael and I live here. You can't just come in and tell me to leave." Jessica laughed, a harsh sound that made my skin crawl. "Actually, we can. Michael's not here to protect his little wife anymore, and we're tired of pretending we want you around." The situation felt increasingly surreal. I looked at each of them, searching for a sign that this was a joke or misunderstanding, but their expressions were deadly serious. "I'm not leaving," I said firmly, placing my hand protectively over my belly. "This is ridiculous. When Michael gets home—" "Michael's not coming home anytime soon," Robert interrupted. "And by the time he does, you'll be long gone, and we'll be settled in where we belong." That's when it hit me. This wasn't spontaneous. It was planned. They had waited until Michael was away, knowing his schedule, and had come to execute whatever twisted plan they had concocted. My blood ran cold. "You're all insane," I said, backing toward the hallway. "I'm calling Michael right now, and then I'm calling the police. You can't do this." But as I reached for my phone, Jessica moved quickly, grabbing my wrist with surprising strength and yanking me away from the phone. "Oh no, you don't," she snarled. "You're not calling anyone." "Let go of me," I pleaded, trying to pull away, but her grip tightened painfully around my wrist. That's when everything escalated. Jessica, who I had known as Michael's sometimes difficult but generally harmless sister, became someone I didn't recognize. Her face contorted with rage as she shoved me hard against the wall. "Come on, you fat cow, get out," she screamed. "We need the house." The words hit me like physical blows, not just because of their cruelty, but because of how they revealed the depth of hatred festering beneath the surface for years. Before I could recover, Jessica grabbed me by the shoulders and began shaking me violently. "Jessica, stop," I cried. "I'm pregnant. You could hurt the baby." "I don't care about your stupid baby," she screamed. Then she kicked me. The first kick landed on my shin, sending a jolt of pain up my leg. The second one hit my thigh, and I tried to turn away to protect my stomach, but she kept coming, a relentless fury in her eyes. "Stop, please stop," I begged, tears streaming down my face as I tried to escape. But Robert and Linda just stood there watching, making no effort to stop her. In fact, Linda seemed to enjoy it. "Some pregnant women just don't know when to leave," she said, her voice disturbingly calm as if she were commenting on the weather. I managed to break away long enough to lunge for my phone, but Robert was quicker. He snatched it away before I could even unlock it. "No phone calls," he said, shoving the device into his pocket. "You'll leave quietly or things will get worse for you." "Please," I begged. "I'm 6 months pregnant. You could kill my baby. How can you do this?" Jessica's response was another kick, this time dangerously close to my stomach. My vision started to blur from the panic and pain. I stumbled backward, barely able to stay on my feet. I was terrified, not just for myself, but for my unborn child. "Your baby doesn't belong in this family anyway," Jessica spat. "We never wanted you here, and we don't want your kid either." I could feel the room spinning as the shock, pain, and stress took a toll on my body. My legs felt weak. The combination of physical pain, emotional trauma, and the stress of pregnancy made everything feel like it was unraveling. And then everything went black. I woke up to the sterile smell of a hospital room, the steady beeping of machines in the background. My head was foggy, and it took a few moments for my eyes to focus. A nurse with kind eyes was standing by my bedside, adjusting the IV line in my arm. "How are you feeling, honey?" she asked with a gentle smile. "What happened?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. "How did I get here?" The nurse's expression shifted, becoming more serious. "Someone found you on the road outside your neighborhood. A jogger called 911 when they saw you lying unconscious on the sidewalk." The memories came flooding back all at once. My in-laws, their cold words, Jessica's violent assault, and then nothing. The terror gripped me again as I realized how close I had come to losing everything. "My baby," I gasped, clutching my stomach. "Is my baby okay?" The nurse nodded quickly. "The baby is fine. We've been monitoring both of you closely. Your baby's heartbeat is strong, and all the tests show everything is normal. You're both going to be okay." Relief flooded me, but it was short-lived. The trauma of being attacked by people I had once considered family, the fact that they had dragged my unconscious body into the street and left me there, overwhelmed me. I needed to talk to Michael. I needed him to believe me. I asked the nurse for a phone, my hand shaking as I dialed his number. When Michael picked up, his voice was laced with concern, but also with something else, something I hadn't expected. "Elena, why are you calling from a hospital number? Is everything okay?" His voice sounded distant, almost skeptical. I could barely control the emotion in my voice. "Michael, you need to come home right now. Something terrible happened." "What's wrong? What happened? Is the baby okay?" His voice cracked with worry. "I'm in the hospital," I said, my words tumbling out in a rush. "Your family came to the house. They attacked me. They tried to make me leave, and when I refused, Jessica started kicking me. I lost consciousness, and someone found me on the road." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. When Michael finally spoke, his voice was not filled with shock or concern. Instead, it was filled with doubt. "Elena, that's impossible. My family wouldn't do something like that. Are you sure you didn't fall or have some kind of accident? Pregnancy can make people dizzy, you know." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My husband, the man I had trusted, was questioning me in the midst of the most traumatic experience of my life. "Are you seriously questioning me right now?" I demanded, my voice rising despite my weakness. "I could have lost our baby, Michael. I was unconscious on the side of the road. What part of that sounds like a misunderstanding to you?" There was a moment of silence before Michael responded, his voice calm but filled with frustration. "Look, I'm sure there's some kind of misunderstanding here. Pregnancy hormones can—" "Don't you dare!" I cut him off, my voice steady despite the overwhelming emotion. "If you don't come home right now, then don't bother showing up at all." I hung up before he could say anything more. My heart was broken. How could the man I had loved for so long doubt me? After everything I had been through, he couldn't even believe my account of what had happened. The nurse, who had been pretending not to listen, squeezed my shoulder gently. "Honey, is there someone else you can call? A family member or friend?" I nodded, tears brimming in my eyes. "I'll call my sister." Emma, my sister, lived about 2 hours away. Unlike Michael, she believed me immediately. Within minutes, she was on her way to the hospital. She also called our parents, who lived in Florida, and they began making arrangements to fly up. Later that day, the police arrived. Detective Martinez was a professional woman in her 40s. She listened to my account with the seriousness it deserved, taking detailed notes and photographs of the bruises that were starting to form on my arms and legs. "Mrs. Thompson," she said, her voice steady and calm, "this is clearly a case of assault and possibly attempted forced eviction, which is illegal. Do you have any evidence of what happened besides your testimony?" The question made my stomach flip. Evidence. I had none. But then the thought hit me like a lightning bolt. The security cameras. Michael had installed security cameras around the house last year. After there had been a few break-ins in the neighborhood, everything that happened would have been recorded. "That's excellent," Detective Martinez said, her voice filled with approval. "We'll get a warrant to review that footage." "Thank you," I whispered, the sense of hope returning. At least now I would have proof. Proof that Michael's family had done this to me and my unborn child. Emma arrived shortly afterward, looking worried but strong. She immediately spoke up. "She'll stay with me for as long as she needs to," she said, offering me a lifeline when everything else felt like it was crumbling. Over the next few days, the police worked to obtain the security footage. Detective Martinez called me on Saturday morning with news that would change everything. "Mrs. Thompson," she said, her voice even but heavy with gravity, "I've reviewed the footage, and I have to say what your in-laws did was even worse than your statement indicated. Not only did they assault you while you were pregnant, but after you lost consciousness, they dragged your body toward the street and left you on the sidewalk near your property line. The footage shows them positioning you carefully to make it appear as though you had collapsed while walking." The words hit me like a tidal wave. They had planned this. They hadn't just tried to hurt me, they had tried to kill me. If that jogger hadn't found me when they did, if I had been left there longer, I shuddered, unable to finish the thought. "We're issuing arrest warrants for all 3 of them," Detective Martinez continued. "Assault, reckless endangerment, and several other charges. The fact that you were pregnant makes this particularly serious." As if the universe were trying to restore balance, that same afternoon, Michael finally came home. But instead of coming to Emma's house, he went straight to our home, where the police were waiting for him. Michael's arrival at the house was a stark contrast to the man I had married. The angry, defensive tone from our last conversation had disappeared completely. Instead, he seemed broken, his voice shaking as he called me from our front door. "Elena, I saw the footage. Oh my God, Elena, I'm so sorry. I can't believe they did that to you, to our baby." His words came in broken sobs, as if everything he thought he knew about his family had crumbled. I didn't immediately respond. The anger I had been holding on to for days was now replaced with exhaustion. How could I feel relief and anger at the same time? How could I trust him again after everything? "I should have believed you immediately. I should have come home the second you called," he continued, his voice trembling. "Can I see you? Please, I need to apologize properly. We need to talk about what happens next." I agreed, but only under one condition. Emma would be present. I no longer trusted Michael to protect me from his family. When he arrived, looking like a shell of himself, his disheveled appearance and tear-streaked face made me pause, But I wasn't ready for the physical contact he was eager to offer, not yet. "I don't even know how to begin to apologize," he whispered, trying to take my hands. "I watched the footage, and I can't believe it. Those people are my family. What they did to you, to our baby. They showed you exactly who they are," I replied, my voice steady despite everything. "The only question now is what you're going to do about it." Michael ran a hand through his hair, his face pale. "I've already started. I filed for restraining orders against all 3 of them. I've changed all the locks on the house and upgraded the security system. I've spoken to a lawyer about pressing additional civil charges beyond what the police are already pursuing." I nodded, appreciating his efforts, though my trust in him was still tentative. "What about the house?" I asked quietly, unsure whether I could ever feel safe there again. Michael paused for a moment, then looked at me with resolve. "That's up to you. If you want to sell it and move somewhere else, we'll do that. If you want to stay and make new memories, we can do that too. Whatever you need to feel safe." Over the next few weeks, things began to move quickly. The legal proceedings, fueled by the damning security footage, exposed the truth about what had happened. Robert, Linda, and Jessica were charged with assault, reckless endangerment, and more. Their lawyer tried to argue that it was just a family dispute, but the evidence was irrefutable. The police had uncovered more chilling details. Not only had they assaulted me while I was pregnant, but after I lost consciousness, they dragged me out of the house and left me on the sidewalk, hoping to stage the scene as an accident. Detective Martinez's revelation that they'd gone back into the house, rifling through our things as if nothing had happened, left me sick to my stomach. The depths of their cruelty seemed endless, but there was more. Robert had been embezzling money from the company where he worked, and Michael had already gathered all the evidence to present it. Jessica's unethical practices as a real estate agent were also exposed, resulting in her license being suspended. Linda was ousted from the charitable board she so proudly sat on, her social circle evaporating in the wake of the scandal. Michael didn't stop there. The house that had been at the center of the conflict was left to him with a stipulation in his grandmother's will. If he had children, the house would be held in trust for them. When our daughter Lily was born, Michael finalized the legal documents, ensuring that Robert, Linda, and Jessica would never have a claim to it. The very thing they had plotted to steal from us was now permanently out of their reach. The criminal trials came soon after, and justice was served. Robert received 2 years in prison, Jessica 18 months, and Linda 15 months. But the true justice came with the civil lawsuit, where we received a settlement large enough to pay off our house and set up a college fund for Lily. Michael's actions during this time showed me who he truly was. After his initial failure to believe me, he never wavered in his determination to seek justice. We enrolled in couples counseling, working through the trauma together. Michael's unwavering support in the months that followed earned back my trust, and our bond grew stronger than before. Though the physical healing was quick, the emotional scars took longer to fade. I still had nightmares and found it difficult to be alone, but over time, I learned to heal. The house, once a symbol of fear, was now a home filled with new memories and love. We renovated it, turning the spaces where I had been attacked into rooms filled with joy and laughter. The living room where Jessica had kicked me was now Lily's playroom, filled with toys and games. We also created the Patricia Fund, a scholarship program for women overcoming domestic violence, funded by the civil settlement. It was a way for us to give back and help others rebuild their lives, just as I had begun to rebuild mine. As for Robert, Linda, and Jessica, their lives had unraveled completely. Robert was fired from his job and faced charges for embezzlement. Linda, once a socialite, was ostracized by the community. Jessica, humiliated by the loss of her real estate license, struggled to rebuild her career. None of them ever apologized, even during the trials. They remained cold and unremorseful. I often wonder if I feel bad about how completely their lives were destroyed. I didn't set out to ruin anyone's life. I just wanted justice for what they did to me and my unborn child. The consequences they faced were a direct result of their actions, and they alone are responsible for what happened. Now, as I sit here watching Lily play in the backyard, I am reminded of the power of resilience. Despite everything, I survived, and now my daughter, my beautiful Lily, is thriving. and our family is stronger than ever. The road to healing wasn't easy, but we made it through together. In the end, I learned something valuable. The most powerful revenge isn't destroying the people who hurt you. It's building a life so beautiful that their absence becomes irrelevant, and that's exactly what I did.